so that the threshold for using the crew facilities is reduced and that you can immediately start your experiment when you are leaving these days. That's the idea. So let's see if we succeed. You will know by the end of tomorrow. So this is the agenda. It's the same what you can find on the website. So first, I will give a short overview of the project. I will do it quite quickly because we lost some time. So maybe I will go a little bit too fast. Anyway, it's just to give you an overview of the crew project, the detailed presentation, and I think the most interesting presentations are starting with the courses. So, okay. So that was the first day. And maybe one practical thing is that at the end of the day, we plan to organize a dinner, but before doing so, we have to know that who is interested to go. I think it was also announced at the website, these training days are free, so you don't have to pay, except for the dinner. We would like to ask you to pay just for the food. We will offer the drinks. So we still have to tell the restaurant how many people that will join, so maybe you can just raise your hands if you would like to join this evening for the dinner. And Dan, can you?
Yes, so please raise your hands clearly if you go with us. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay.
9. Yeah. So maybe we will ask once more when other people have arrived, but okay, at least we have an idea. So that was practical thing. Then tomorrow, so while today you will have more an overview already of the different facilities and what can be done in the different facilities, some really initial hands-on experience today. But tomorrow the focus is on real in-depth courses with much more hands-on experience. And these courses are, so in the morning and in the afternoon, there are always 2 courses running in parallel so that a half day can be used for more in-depth training. So that's the agenda. So let's now start with the project overview. And okay, you will see what comes. So Crew project is now already running for more than 3 years. We started in October 2010. We have 8 core partners. I will not read them. You can see them here on the map of Europe. And then before the 3rd open call, there were 2 other open calls. And from these open calls, 9 more partners have joined the Crew project. This open call is a bit different. Unfortunately, we originally planned to only have 2 open calls, so we only had budget for 2 open calls. So as you know, this 3rd open call, there was no budget. So we are still happy to have people that are interested to use the facilities. So, in this 3rd open call, 7 proposals were selected for support. And these are the partners that will do the experiment. These partners will not become the official partner of Crew, but it doesn't matter, we will support you and help you with your experiments. The main advantage that you don't have to officially join Crew is that you don't have to go to this complex administrative process, which is sometimes a huge burden compared with the money that you receive in such an open call. So there are, of course, there are always advantages and disadvantages. Okay, some practicalities, but I will contact you via email for that. Is the only thing we ask, and that is the only administration, is that we will ask to sign the Memorandum of Understanding. This is a document that was already available at the time of the proposal preparation. It is a very, I think there is nothing special in that, but at least we need some kind of agreement, and this is the fastest way to do that. And in order to contact you, it would be nice to have a mailing list, so we will circulate a paper during these days and ask who has to be on the mailing list to be further contacted for either Normally it's for technical issues, but okay, we also have this memorandum of understanding. But it would be good to have a mailing list if there is an issue with the facilities, or if we want to announce something, then we can use this mailing list. Okay, then crew project. Why do we have the crew project? And the crew project is a bit triggered with what we see, what we observe in the internet. The internet is important. Everybody knows the internet very well. It's a technology that is used to interconnect many, many devices, many wireless services. But since internet is increasing and the number of devices and the number of users is increasing, this results also in an increasing complexity, and most important, this results in an increased wireless demand for wireless bandwidth. Yeah, this is just a picture I have stolen from Cisco to show how the expectations are, and it's clear that the demand for wireless bandwidth is still increasing. The problem is the radio spectrum is not increasing, it's fixed, and we have to deal with that. And what we see also when looking at the radio spectrum is that there are big differences depending on the frequency band. There are white spaces, non-used spectrum in licensed band, and then you have the overcrowded unlicensed band, like the ISM bands that can be used freely by everyone. Those are overcrowded. So, what is this problem of overcrowded unlicensed band? The problem is that many collisions happen, what we call interference, and these collisions can happen in the time and the frequency domain. For example, if we look, Wi-Fi is using the wireless medium. You could have Bluetooth, which uses frequency hopping and which will conflict with Wi-Fi. Then you could have Zigbee technologies, and they are all competing for the same frequencies and the same medium, resulting in conflicts, and this is giving more and more trouble. Then, so this that means that there are many research questions. And one of the main question is how we can avoid these collisions. So there are different techniques. You can just have passive interference avoidance, meaning that, for example, a Zigbee network just tries to avoid the Wi-Fi and uses a channel that is not occupied. Or you could have better solutions, but then you really need cooperation and coordination between different technologies. Other questions is, and I think for some of the partners that are participating today, partners from industry, is how to guarantee quality of service in wireless network. A wireless medium, it's not like an Ethernet cable where you have fixed bandwidth. It's a very dynamic thing, so it's very hard to offer the required bandwidth. Another issue could be how to reduce human exposure. For example, when using wireless technologies in a hospital environment or whatever. Also very important, since wireless connectivity, you are generally using devices that run on battery. How can you limit energy consumption? So you need for solutions that deal with that. It's very important that you can, in the first place, that you can characterize the wireless environment to see how bad the situation is. So to this end you need low energy, low cost spectrum sensing techniques. We need more dynamic interference avoidance techniques that can avoid collisions. It's important to have more cooperating networking solutions, for example cooperation at the MAC level or at the routing level. These are just a few possible solutions. When we look at the license band, there the main problem is that today in license bands like GSM, UMTS, LTE, there we see that the spectrum is underutilized because the spectrum is licensed. The spectrum is not fully used. We say that there are white spaces or spectrum holes. And we see an evolution from the exclusive use by the primary users, which are then the GSM, UMTS users, to more dynamic spectrum access by secondary users who do not have the license, but that try to opportunistically use or steal the white spaces from primary users. So the research questions there are, how can a secondary user make use of the white spaces but without degrading the performance of the primary users who have the first right to use the spectrum? And how can, and to this end, a secondary user should be capable to measure the primary user activity, so in order to ensure that he is not conflicting with the primary user. And there are also different solutions to cope with that. And one possibility is what they call the interweave dynamic spectrum access model, or it's better known as the opportunistic spectrum access, which is the most straightforward way of using it. So it is actually use the white spaces, so non-used spectrum, in the temporal, spatial, or frequency domain. Is what you see here at time 1. Here is a white space. So a secondary user can use this space, and at another time it can be another frequency. So that's the most simple mechanism. There are different approaches to implement that. It could be centralized solutions, where, if I go back to the previous slide, we make use of a spectrum brokerage kind of server in combination with a geolocation database that keeps track of the spectrum occupation. And another way is a more distributed spectrum sharing, where secondary users will do local sensing to find out if the spectrum is free or not, or will do cooperative sensing in order to have a better and more accurate information on the environment. And then there are 2 other models that can be used. And the first one is the underlay dynamic spectrum access model. And so then what you have is that the secondary user is not really using the white spaces, but can use the whole spectrum, also the spectrum that is used by the primary user, but with such a low power that it is below the threshold for interference. It's a kind of like ultra-wideband type of technique. Another technology is what they call the overlay model, and here it is allowed for a primary user to send with more power and using the same frequency bands as the primary user. But here, as you can intuitively feel, this is more complex because you have to use special techniques that you still do not interfere with the primary user, or that you even improve the signal of the primary user by special techniques. Okay, this is just a little bit of information. I will not go into further detail, but it could be, it just shows you what kind of research that is needed in the area where CREW is dealing with. So CREW, the idea of the CREW project is actually, if there is a novel idea and before it can go into commercial use, you have several phases. The first phase is, you are researching a solution and you want to compare different ideas. The next phase, you want to validate the ideas. And then the question is, do I need a theoretical validation, or will I do a realistic experiment in a realistic environment? And actually the question is not an or question, it's more an and question, because it is not obvious to deal with these very dynamic environments with interference, with different transceiver or spectrum sensing hardware. It's very hard to have a theoretical model or have a good model that you can use in simulations. In the end, you have to do experimental verification, because you have to take into account all the limitations of the hardware and all the dynamics of a wireless environment. So once you can have experimental validation, you can build a nice proof of concept, a kind of showcase that can be used towards industry, towards regulators, to policymakers. And then the next step is that you introduce the product in the market, but you also have to monitor the product, and you have to understand how people experience the new product. So this is the full phase, but actually Crew is not dealing with all those phases. You could say that Crew is actually covering those first three phases. But it could help by offering the facilities, it could help to reduce the time to market. So, okay, I go very quickly to that one. What we actually will say is that if you want to do an experiment and you are not so much experienced, it's important that if you do an experiment that it is reliable, so that you can repeatable. If you do an experiment today and you want to do the same experiment later, tomorrow, next week, you want to achieve the same results. Otherwise, it's hard to do a comparison. Or if you have two ideas and you want to validate them, you should be able to do an objective comparison. Then, the next thing is, if you want to do an experiment, it is not always justified to build your own setup, because there are so many wireless technologies. Some of them are cheap, but others can be very expensive. Sometimes you need a lot of devices. A few devices is not enough for doing your experiment. So that's why actually we have come to the Crew project, and the main objective is actually to establish an open federated testbed, meaning open, anybody can use this who is interested. And it is on advanced spectrum sensing, cognitive radio, cognitive networking, and how to share the spectrum in licensed and unlicensed band, like I have explained in the previous slides. So actually, hello, welcome. We just started, but it's only the overview presentation, so you didn't miss the courses. So the idea is indeed to use spectral resources as efficient as possible. So there are different building blocks for that, like cognitive radio, cognitive networking. What does that mean? Actually, what you want to do with cognitive radio and cognitive networking is you want to realize a cognition loop. You want to measure, you want to characterize the environment. So you measure the environment, you analyze your data, and then based on that, you take a decision on what are the best configuration, the best settings of the wireless devices. Then you do the configuration. This will have an impact on the environment because you change your settings, so you have to measure again, and this is a loop. While cognitive radio, this is done from a single device who implements the cognition loops, while cognitive networking has it's a group of devices, it's the whole network who work together to realize this cognition loop. Okay, yeah, and sometimes if you take a decision, you have to take into account the regulatory and policy constraints. Good. So maybe just say what Crew is not. So actually in Crew, the co-partners, and so we do not really do the research, design the new algorithms, but what we do, what we have done in Crew over the past years, is we brought together several existing wireless facilities that can support research on cognitive radio, cognitive networking. We also have augmented the facilities, make them more powerful by adding more advanced cognitive components. It's not only about hardware, but it's only about bringing together the expertise for doing experimentation. So we offer methodologies. We not only offer the hardware, but we also offer the methodology, the process on how to do a good experiment that allows you to do a fair comparison between solutions. And yeah, of course, on top of the facilities, you can validate new cognitive solutions. So this is the Crew platform. I will go very quickly over this slide because you will have plenty of information in the next courses. But we have 5 islands, and I think we have 5 courses explaining the 5 islands later today. So we have the island in Ghent, which is on heterogeneous ISM technologies. You have the island in Berlin, which is a sensor network testbed. In Dublin, we having TV bands, then we have LTE, advanced in Dresden, and then, there is the outdoor testbed in Ljubljana, covering ISM and TV bands. So this is the very quick overview, but you will be sure there will be much more information later today and tomorrow. And then, yes, it's in addition, next to the 5 islands with facilities, we also have advanced cognitive components like the IMEC sensing agent, the IRIS reconfigurable software platform, Thales multi-antenna, and wireless innovation forum transceiver facility. This will also be explained later today. So, also very quickly, what does CREW offer? We have, in the first place, we have a portal, and I'm quite sure while preparing proposals for Open Call 3 that you should have looked at the portal and found out that there are a lot of information on the facilities, high-level information, detailed information, information on the uses, policies, how can you access the testbed, how can you get an account, how can you get started. There is also some information on how to use the portal, how to deal with all the different information. You can look at different views of the system, on how to use it, on what kind of hardware you can find in the facilities. Then I also explained to you that it's not only the different facilities, but we also have interesting cognitive components. For example, here you can see a picture. This is the testbed here in Ghent, not on this location, but a few kilometers away from here. And in this testbed, we have added several spectrum sensing agents from IMEC. We also have USRP equipment where we can run the modular software platform from Dublin. So as you can see, we did a relocation of hardware and software components. This is just an example of the testbed in Ghent, but we also have that in the other testbeds, so that you can have more advanced capabilities. This is one of the components, but this will be explained later, so I can skip that here. I think there will also be further information today on the transceiver API, which can be used. This is actually a standardized interface, and the interface is here between the transceiver and the modem, and which is offered to you to run on together with the USRP hardware and then software on a Linux PC. So we also offer in CREW open data set. It's a common data structure based on the IEEE 1900.6 standard, which can be used for describing experiments and traces in the same way. Could be used, for example, for spectrum sensing when you have a different heterogeneous hardware for spectrum sensing. Just to show that there is a repository, and these are tools that can be used, that are open, so if it is interesting for your experiment, you can just use them. But again, more information will follow later. And as I said, we also work on methodologies for experimentation. We call that the benchmarking. And so what do we actually mean by benchmarking? It's actually the measuring and evaluating of solutions, could be as well capabilities of hardware or software solutions. And we do that under well-defined reference conditions. For example, some specific interference scenario, and relative to a reference evaluation. So allowing you to do a fair comparison, and you could, in this way, you could just compare different solutions, or it could be subsequent development, just to see how much is my solution improving. So I think I'm coming at the end of my talk. So this is the CREW offer. We have the test facilities, we have the different components. These are major test beds. We can help you and with methodologies. There are several tools that help you to use the test beds. We can offer reproducible test conditions, and very important, we have expertise from the physical layer to the application layer. We also have this portal with detailed information. And I think most important for OpenCall 3 is that we can offer technical support and assistance, because we realize doing a first experiment is not easy and you need some help to get started, and these days is the first step for that. Okay, so just to give you an overview, this is the crew roadmap. We had 1 year to set up. We had 3 more years where we did optimizations and extensions. We are now finalizing this phase, and then we aim to go towards full sustainability, meaning that even when the project is finished, you can still come to the crew and do your experiments using the hardware. So now we had 2 open calls. OpenCall 2 is still running. Now we have OpenCall 3. And after OpenCall 3, we plan to have a real open access space where people just can ask to use the facilities. Okay, I think that's it. Oh yes, I won't say anything, but I just collected some testimonies from different experimenters from OpenCall 1, OpenCall 2 that have used the facilities, and they have expressed their experience on how they, what benefits crew could bring for their experiment. So, but this is the end of my presentation. I don't know if there are some immediate questions. If not, I would say we can go to the first course, which is, I think, the iMinds testbed. Okay, maybe just tell you that recently in November we have won a Best Exhibition Award on the ICT 2013 exhibition. This is a huge exhibition, and it's nice to see that we can have some exposure with the experiments that are done using the crew facility. So maybe on the next big exhibition it could be one of the OpenCall 3 experiments that is showcased. Never know. Okay, thank you. Peter, are you going to continue?